Let's try it again. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is meeting number 160 of TMG, the MAC Group. And as always, thank you for coming out on a rainy, cold Ohio spring day. Let's see, our itinerary, agenda, we're going to start out with the, where I tell you what the agenda is. And then we'll do the welcome, well, let's see, we did the welcome. Then we'll do the embarrassment, which is where we have any guests or new members that are here. We introduce them to the rest of the group. Then we'll do our news. Is there any new news out there that members know about? After we do news, then we'll do, let's see, we usually do for sale or wanted at that point. And after we do for sale or wanted, then we do help desk. And then after we do help desk, we have a short 10-15 minute break. After we have our short 10-15 minute break, then we split, like an amoeba, into two pieces. One group goes back to the novice clinic, which Mr. Cobb will be running this month. Oh, you woke up.
I've been awoke.
I saw you sleeping back there. And then the other group will subject themselves to another presentation by yours truly on scanners. Does anybody have any questions about our agenda? No questions about the agenda. Okay, then, we already did the welcome. Let's do the embarrassment. We have a new member, Walter Mock. Am I saying that correctly, Walter?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Stand up. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what kind of Mac you got, what you use it for, and what you want to use it for.
I can't remember all those questions. My name's Walter Mock. I'm a dentist down here in on Kettering Moraine border, Stroop and South Dixie, and I'm gonna have an iMac, the new dual.
Oh, dual core.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I just use it for personal, and iTunes and iPhoto and just messing around.
Word processing,
Word processing.
email.
Yes.
You do voice over IP, internet
I
phone yet?
Video.
No, internet phone.
iChat.
Oh, iChat. Okay,
Yeah.
That's pretty much the same technology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm set up. I've done that a couple times.
Any particular things that you want to know more about that you're sort of?
Oh, just everything. I'm not that much of a computer, so anything I can learn would be helpful.
Okay. Well, excellent. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question. Have you thought about computerizing your office?
Maybe it's computerized.
Oh, okay.
Or PC based.
Do you mind if I ask what system you're using to run your office?
SoftDen. It's called
Okay.
SoftDen.
Okay. Turnkey system. Good choice.
How about your x-rays? Do you do
We're
those?
not digitized yet, but everything's heading that way. One of the offices in my building is all digital. Yeah, digitized X-rays and everything, charts and everything.
You carry it around on video iPods.
Yeah, you can.
I am fulfilled. I now have a dentist in my group. Dentists have the coolest toys.
Yeah. We're gadget people.
Do you know Bob Van Etten? Bob Van Etten? It's over, you know of him, okay. Bob and I are good buddies. When I go in, it's not just for cleaning, but I also get the entire tour of, where this is the new, we got this new resin that we're using for this, and it's just fascinating me. Weirds his staff out. They go like, patients aren't supposed to ask this.
Yeah. If you get him and Frank together, you can be dentaled out.
Okay, I'll take that as advisory. Okay, that was the embarrassment. Do we have any other visitors today? No other visitors? Any other new members? You want to introduce yourself again, Lou? You figured they already know you once. Just say hello again, because you weren't here last month.
I'm Lee Carmen with 2 A's, as my college daughter says. When I first joined it, they gave me a name tag, and they misspelled it. They did that on my birth certificate.
The Lou's out Cedarville way, and he's sort of looking to see if maybe he can link up with a computer buddy, because his support person is out in Alabama?
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
I'm in
Okay.
I don't know if that's close enough.
You're in Lebanon, I thought.
This
Like I said,
guy,
on
this
11.
guy between us is closer to it.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, at the break, if you're out Xenia Way, Cedarville Way, and you figure you know more than Lou, or Lou knows more than you, talk to Lou. Okay, next thing would be news. Do we have any news items from the membership? Yes?
I just want to say that I have an iMac, which I use exclusively for the net, which I was moving. I sat on top of some boxes about 5 feet off the concrete floor. I had everything attached to it. Went back to my desk and I heard this terrible crash, and it's all the heat on the floor. I picked it up. The case wasn't cracked. The screen wasn't cracked. The keyboard, the keys had come out of it. I put everything back together, plugged everything back up. Went to start it, nothing. I thought, well, okay. But I didn't notice that in the back, I hadn't pushed it all the way in. Pushed it, worked perfect. A 5-foot fall on the concrete doesn't put it back.
So that they do crash, they still work.
That's the only
They do crash, but they do recover. Question, did you get your keys back on your keyboard?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't need a replacement then? Okay. Okay, any other news other than disasters? Mr. Cobb, any news?
I'll make a little announcement about
Okay, Mr. Georges?
some of you may have these bookmarks in front of you. I passed out however many they gave me. This is from O'Reilly. We're now part of the O'Reilly users group. This thing says it's 30% discount, but it's actually 35%. They just increased it recently. I don't know if anybody's familiar with O'Reilly, but they have a lot of good books. This is one of them that they sent us. It's the iPod and the iTunes. I also have an iPhoto 6 book at home, which I'm reading, which they also sent us. So if you're like books, go to O'Reilly. They have a very good selection. And it doesn't have to just be Mac books. I mean, any of their books that are out there, you're welcome to use. Now, if you didn't get one of these bookmarks, you can still go on to their web page, and the user group discount code is DSUG. So that's all you've got to put in, and you'll get your 35% discount.
Does somebody need one, because we're together, I think.
Okay?
Do you get this at Coca Company also?
No, I believe it's just online.
It's online.
Yeah. You can take it over there and ask them. I don't know. Probably not. One other company that I contacted recently was ProSoft Engineering. They also put us into their user group program, and they're offering their products for 25% off. Some of the products that they have are Data Rescue, Drive Genius, Data Backup, Picture Rescue, and TuneTech for iPod. I don't have any of their products. I've read that I guess the Data Rescue 2 and the Drive Genius are pretty good programs. So if you're interested in any of these products, you can go to ProSoft Engineering. It's prosofting.com. And the discount code is PRO247. And if you're interested in this and you didn't get the information, I have this here, or you can just send me an email. That's all I had from that regard. There were some updates just recently. There was a security update that Apple just released.
Yeah. Let me bring that
And there's
up.
also a QuickTime update.
Good point. Okay, support. Things change so quickly in the computer world. I figure, why write notes when you can just go to the website and see what they currently have. So, let's see, the latest results, the latest releases in terms of QuickTime 7.1. That is also a security update because they found some vulnerabilities in the way that QuickTime handles certain files. If you have QuickTime Pro, and you already have a valid license for that, you don't necessarily want to install this because if you install QuickTime 7, you'll have to buy a new license to have QuickTime Pro capabilities. And then we have a series of security updates that were released for clients and servers, and for the Powered PC and the Intel machines. And most of those have to do with, let's see, some of the third-party free open source software that's bundled with the Apple operating system, so it's patching some things in there, doing some updates of some of those, and it's also adding another dialog box on top of the one. When you're downloading things, the Mac operating system will automatically recognize whether that file is an executable. Okay, it may say it's an image file, but if it's an executable, Mac OS will find that. And what it does, the security update asks you one more time, yeah, you really understand this is an executable and you want to download it anyway. Okay, so they just added that extra little level of protection. What else?
Front row.
Front row. Front row is, for those of you who have the remote controls on your Apple products, Front Row is that software that lets you play the movies and that using the remote control, and they've got an update for that. And Aperture, for those of you that are professional photographers, you're using Aperture, they've got an update for that, and it's really more than just an update. It's almost a rework of the entire app. Let's just say it's not just a .1 update. They really reworked the whole thing. Listening to comments that a lot of professional photographers had about what was wrong with the original version. And let me just scroll here for a minute. Apple keyboard updates, that was from 4/27. Logic Pro. Keynote updates from 4/26. Pages update. And if you're doing Xsan, they've had a series of major upgrades for Xsan. It's storage area network, you know, where you're doing petabytes, not terabytes, you know, bigger than terabytes. Bigger than terabytes. Just amazing. What else? Can you think of anything else, Mr. Georges, that was going out on that side?
No.
On the, I guess I should talk about Windows operating system, since you can now run it on Macintoshes legally. The latest word I hear from the Gartner group is that Vista isn't going to be ready for Christmas, and it probably won't be ready for real release until second or third quarter next year. And they base their report on what happened with Microsoft operating systems in prior releases. So they know where they are now, and they know how much time it takes to get from there to a release version, and so they're saying it's going to be second quarter next year. One of the things that I've appreciated much more since I've been taking Windows certification classes and working with just Intel and AMD processors and, you know, Microsoft Windows 98, NT, and that, is just how much Apple Computer does for us in making our lives simpler. You really don't know until you've been on the other side just how wonderful Apple technology is. But one of the things that, I'm trying to make sure I put this the right way, because I don't want to be pejorative here. I really wonder about the future of Microsoft, their viability, their cash flow, because they have not released a new operating system since 2001, I want to say. Windows XP came out in 2000, 2001, somewhere around in there. In that same period of time, Apple made their migration from its classic operating systems to a Unix-based operating system, came out with the beta version of that, version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5 comes out later on this year, beginning of next year. And they also did a transition from just running on PowerPC processors to having their operating software run on PowerPC or Intel processors, and theoretically AMD processors. And, you know, I watch this company, Apple, which Michael Dell thought, you know, should be sold off, and then I look at what Microsoft's been able to do, and I just don't see the innovation anymore coming from Microsoft. So anyway, that was my editorial comment. Do we have any other news from the members? No other news from the members. Okay, let's go to for sale.
I
Yes,
just
Jim.
have a question about that. Are all of those updates that you just looked at, are they all covered by software update?
If you have the application already installed, yes.
Okay.
Okay. If you don't have the application already installed, then you would have to download them. Okay. Yes.
If I defer the update, like GarageBand, I don't use GarageBand, so I don't download it. Does my computer store that information and I can do it later if I want to?
Yes, you can. What you can do is, let me just do a, let me just switch that to the background. Software update. Now, this machine is fully updated, so I think it's fully updated. But up on the menu bar, you have this second item, the one that's grayed out right now because it's still talking to the internet. It says ignore update. So if you tell it to ignore update, then you later on go to that same menu bar, it'll say reset update. So in other words, if you told it to ignore it, don't download it, just don't show it in the list, and later on, like for example, iPods, let's say you have all these iPod updates, but you don't own an iPod, so you say, I don't need it. Later on, you get an iPod, you want those updates, you just go up into that menu, and you say reset, and it'll show you those things that you told it to ignore before.
Thank you.
Another good technique is to tell it to install and keep the package. What happens then is, it doesn't just download and install, but it then saves a copy of that installer in a folder called Packages. That'd be in your hard drive, in the library folder, inside a Packages folder. Okay? Comes in handy if you're on dial-up and you don't want to have to re-download things. You reinstall your operating system. It's got the old one saved off to the side. Go into the old one, go into the library, go into Packages, and those updaters are still there. And you can then run them.
On updates, if you have more than one machine, but only one of them is hooked to the net, can you download to a flash drive, take that flash drive
Yeah,
over?
what you would select then is you would say, update, download only. Okay? Or you could say, install and keep package, and you could then take those packages and move them onto a flash drive. Okay? Or the other thing that we try to do for the members at least twice a year is we put together that CD at the end of the year, and usually towards the middle of the year, where we put all current updates for the operating systems, for the folks that aren't on the internet at all. That way they can still update, get functionality, and have their security patches, even if they're not connected to the internet. And it comes in real handy to carry that with you, with your laptop, if you end up in a situation where you have to reinstall, and you don't have network, and you gotta get something done, good way to get back functionality. Okay, any other questions? Any for sale wanted items? Yes, Marilyn?
If anyone has a laptop, an older laptop.
How old are you willing to go?
Not too old. But I mainly want it for AppleWorks and for a game or two.
Is this running under Mac OS 10 or Mac OS 9?
Preferably 10.
Preferably 10, so you want something that can run Mac OS 10. Okay. Do me a favor, when you get home, write this down, this is your homework assignment. Send me an email, right? I promise, this is Lisa talking now, I promise I'm going to send out an email within a week of the meeting with all of the stuff that people have for sale and wanted that didn't get handled at the meeting.
Okay, and I've got with me.
Okay, so send me an email, and then I will send that back out. Just remember, only about a third to a quarter of the members come to the meetings,
Okay.
okay? Anybody else with for sale or want? Yes, Peter?
I have an old Epson scanner, and it requires SCSI, and it runs on OS 9 only. But I guess the software or the driver that has not been updated to OS 10. It has 600 dots per inch resolution.
Are you donating it or selling it?
I don't know, does anybody still run Max with this CASI interface?
Yeah, there's some people that still do that.
Okay.
Why don't you, your homework assignment, when you get home, send me the email, if you don't sell it here, or give it away at the meeting, send me an email with the specs of it, okay? And that way we'll get it out of your closet and into somebody else's.
Okay. I'm a little bit confused about your email address. You have the one at the newspaper. Can I use that one, or do you want?
I would prefer that you use,
Your home email address.
I'm gonna bring up the, you get a sneak preview of the presentation for today, because I've got my email address on it. I hope, come on, quick. Yeah.
Willman@AOL.com is the one I prefer.
Okay.
I try not to have any personal stuff go to the paper.
What about the TMG address?
You can use TMG Dayton,
Yeah.
TMGDayton@AOL.com. That is also a valid one. That one I use specifically for club business, so that's an appropriate one for this also. Okay? Any other questions?
Do we
Yes?
have a meeting next month, or is this the last meeting?
We have a meeting next month. Okay, depending on how much stuff on Scanner I get done today and what sort of questions I get, I may be doing a second session just on scanning technology. Okay, but that will be the last meeting. Then we take a 2-month break. So July and August, we're on hiatus. We take a break,
Yeah.
and then we come back in September. Okay, and the reason we follow that is because we think of ourselves as an educational organization. So the students need a good summer vacation, so they'll be fresh, and they'll be ready to go in September.
Tim, if you want to show up in July, summer school.
Okay, anybody else for sale or wanted? Okay, no other items for sale or wanted. We did news, we did for sale or wanted. Help desk. Anybody run into problems this month? Okay, George.
I'll try and give a condensed version on this. I use AppleWorks 6 a lot.
Okay.
All right. So for no discernible reason, one day I opened a word processing document. So I got the blank word processing document in front of me. The first key that I hit, like an A, causes the application to crash. You just type in an A or any letter, and it crashes. If I open an already existing document, do the same thing, say I'm going to append it or something.
Okay.
Same thing. Same thing occurs with the graphics program. Okay.
Okay. So basically anything in the AppleWorks suite.
Yeah, no, not the spreadsheet.
Not the spreadsheet.
But apparently everything else, now, in the graphics program, I can draw a triangle or a circle or something like that. But as soon as I try and do a text box and an A or something, so I went to Network and I tried to recall some of the things that you talked about, and I tried some of those things, and I was of the opinion that none of them fixed it.
Okay.
And then a couple of weeks later, I come in and I try it, and it appears to be working. Okay? I kind of assumed it was a font problem, but I don't. So anyhow, just any real quick comments, what you might say about that?
Okay. First question I would always ask is, what changed on the system from when AppleWorks was working correctly to when it was failing to when it was working again? Did you add or subtract any hardware from the system?
Negative.
Negative. Okay. Did you add or subtract fonts?
Negative. They never do that. I just let fonts alone,
Okay, because fonts can sometimes be problematic. A lot of people don't realize that fonts get loaded in to the system stack.
We even talked about corrupted fonts.
Yeah, in fact, I went to Font Book, and it said I had a couple corrupted fonts, things I'd never even heard of or never used. It sounded like it was maybe from Japan or Korea or some god-awful place. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, there was no font that I'd ever heard of or ever thought I'd used.
Yes.
And so I let it do its
Fix its
thing.
thing, do its thing.
Yeah,
Okay, so it repaired those fonts.
about three of them, I think it was.
Okay.
Is your Apple Works running under 9 or 10?
This is 10.4.
But does it run, does 6 run in 10, or does it divert to 9 classic?
Oh, no, it runs
Okay.
okay.
Okay, because they, you know, that AppleWorks, the same version runs under both, because it's a Carbon app.
Because, you know,
Okay.
if 9 is up and running already, you won't know that it's running.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell in the
You-
corner.
Yeah, okay.
My crystal ball is cloudy, but I'm gonna make an estimate anyway, okay? I would guess that when you repaired those fonts, you
Okay.
repaired your problem,
Okay.
okay? There are some fonts specifically that are bundled with AppleWorks that are from some of those god-awful places, as you put it.
Yeah.
Okay, because its market primarily still is in the educational field.
Yeah.
And so they have some special fonts in there for doing some of the templates and that they have. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Okay?
Is this
Yes.
a problem session now?
Yes, we are doing problem session.
I have a
Dr.
problem
Steele.
here trying to get my email, personal email on Netscape. And I get this message coming up. We are sorry, but you will need to enable cookies and JavaScript to use your screen name with this site.
Okay, they've made a modification where they're requiring Java applets to be active. Are you running under Mac OS 9 or 8 or Mac OS 10?
9.1,
Mac OS
yeah.
9. Mr. Cobb? Was Java technology bundled with 9? Were we doing Java applets back in 9? I can't remember now.
I can't remember either, I think we were.
I believe
was
it
a
started with Mac OS 9.
But it was very, I mean, it was like
Yeah.
one of the early versions.
First
of
thing,
it.
okay, it's talking about cookies.
That I took care, I enabled it under
Okay, you
Tools.
enabled it. But I would check to see whether you have Sun's Java installed on your Mac OS 9 system. You can still download.
Well, under Tools, I think, or so, I can get Java's console, it says, and Java
Okay, so you have
console.
Java, but you probably don't have the version that they're requiring
What's
for
happening?
Netscape Communicator,
Yeah.
email.
What version?
What, 4.1, which version of Netscape Communicator? 4.19?
No, Netscape is 7.0.
Okay, so that was the beta, right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, it's the last version.
I
of
sent a
Mac OS
message to
9.
Netscape and they said they'd answer in 24 hours, and that's now been
Okay.
48 or more hours and no answer.
So I would think it's a Java incompatibility.
So how does one handle that?
I would go out to the Sun computer site and see if they have a download for Mac OS 9 for Java
Okay,
and update that Java component.
so it's on sun.com?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you know, the folks that make the Sparks and the SPARC computers, you know, Solaris, Unix, big L-class or HP, the big computers that look like pop machines, Sun computers.
Okay,
Okay.
so anyways, go to sun.com and see if there's a download for the
Yeah.
Macintosh. Okay.
And if there isn't, you might consider either using a different email client or, I know this is going to shock you, moving to Mac OS 10.
Well, I can't do Mac OS 10 because I have a PowerPC.
But we could put you on Yellow Dog Linux.
Put me on what?
Yellow Dog Linux.
Yellow
That
Dog
was last
Linux?
month's presentation.
What
We had-
version of, what version of Netscape are you using?
Netscape is 9.1.
No, that's
That's
the
his
OS.
OS.
I'm sorry, it's 7.0.
Geez, I always had problems running 7. I always went back for OS 9, I always went back to 4.8 or 4.9.
Well, you try going to
7 never ran well in Classic.
Uh-huh.
But have you tried upgrading to the latest software for 9? Because
It's not,
it's like 9.2.
9.1.
921,
9.2
But
is
if
the
he's
latest.
running on an older machine.
2.1.
you can't
An older machine, you got a limit on that.
Okay.
Okay, the other thing is your distribution just doesn't work on
921
that.
is 922.
Max is 9.
Wait a minute, I got a retired engineer who has an idea.
You can run 10 on your Power PC. Was it a 604 CPU? How old a Mac is it?
It's 9800.
98, I don't remember. Yes.
96?
I'm running 10 on a Mac which has a Power PC 604 processor with a program called X Post Facto. And it allows you to install and run 10 on computers that are prior to the G3.
Okay, and that's recommended what?
X post facto, if you want to try to upgrade to 10.
Ex post facto.
May I
Ex post factor, how
suggest,
do you access it?
May I suggest,
Well, I have to leave, that's okay. I'll
at
get
the
back.
break, get with Chuck. He
Okay.
knows
Because I've been running.
more
this
than
for
I
some-
do about ex post facto.
I might have to leave earlier.
Okay. I figure I might as well. Okay, never mind, I don't remember my password.
No, you don't remember.
We'll just do it like this. Okay, anybody else? Tim?
I used TechTool Pro 4. Occasionally had it just do its thing and look
Yeah.
over the system, and it came up and said, you've got some minor directory issues, we want them repaired.
Okay.
And I said yes, and that was real bad. It came up and said, it gave me all green lights, everything was fine. And what it had done was make the drive not mountable. And I went and got Disk Warrior, and I put it on, and Disk Warrior said, oh dear, some other application has deleted critical file data.
Okay.
And but it said, if you get this message, send an email to this place. And I did, they called me back, and the guy walked me through a half an hour
Okay.
to bring the thing back from the dead.
Okay.
But I would just warn people to be very wary of TechTool 4 on things like file structures,
Okay.
volume structures.
Question, do you remember which version of
Oh.
4 you were running?
When I first upgraded to Tiger, I checked that site regularly, and it's been
Okay.
a couple months since I checked it. Well, I didn't check it before doing this in my moment of
Okay.
weakness when I clicked the yes.
Okay.
They finally said, oh, you know, it's really not compatible with Tiger.
Okay.
But I still believe those repair facilities should follow the rule of first do no wrong.
Yes, first, yes, Hippocratic oath.
Yeah, right.
Above all, do no harm. But this is something that's very important to, let me just get Micromat in here real quick, so I've got their site up. Micromat is the manufacturer of TechTool Pro. And, come on up, there we go, okay. What I always do before I escalate and start using third-party tools, I will reboot the machine from the DVD or CD that came with the machine, and I will run disk utility from that DVD or CD first. I always use the Apple utilities first, okay? Then I go to a TechTool, backing up if at all possible first. Okay, I know, for most of us, it's, you only have the one computer, you don't have extra space to put things. But I think you're providing us with some invaluable bad experience that others can learn from. And that is, if you're going to be using third-party applications, you need to, let's see, let's go to their beta, okay. You need to check that website periodically to see if there are updates. Most of these third-party applications now will have an item in the menu bar which says check for updates. So you've launched the program, you then say, oh, go check and see if there is an update. This, of course, assumes an internet connection, a high-speed or dial-up internet connection. If they have updates, you want to read very carefully what that update does. And whenever you make a change to a newer operating system, you want to be careful about what you do. Okay?
Well, the Disk Warrior, when you read through it, they say, be wary of other applications that do this when dealing with volume structures because they don't
Yes.
create a new one and that can really make a
Yes.
mess of things. They make one that meets the software's needs, but is not necessarily a
Correct.
functioning volume structure.
Or to put it another way, there is a philosophical debate
Yes.
about the appropriate functions of a Unix file recovery utility. Okay?
Based on
And
my
it's-
experience, I vote for Disk Warrior.
There is not a consensus yet about the best way to do it.
Is
Yes?
the recommendation to disregard the handout which suggests that you use?
I haven't seen the handout. I assume this is from Mr.
It's
Howe.
on page 64,
Page 64.
says OSX first page.
Okay. 64. Which part do you think they ought to ignore?
Well, it recommends that you have OSX, that you go buy this and travel with it and use it to recover if you have a problem with your PC when you're traveling.
That's for a techie.
Okay.
Is that the subject for a future note?
Sure.
Okay.
You know, when we come back in September, usually there's 2 months of oops that we clean up, and we usually have one either at the beginning of the new year or at the end of the year.
But the message today is don't get carried away and go buy one blindly.
It's the message I would give you is one that I repeat to myself quite often at work, which is know when to stop. Know when you listen to the customer, hear what the problem is, fix the problem, but know when to stop. Because you can fix a machine into total immobility. Okay, anybody else? Yes, Marilyn?
Bill, I downloaded Attaware, and it just came up a little document. I don't know where Attaware went. There was a document, but when I went to open the document, it said there was no application to open it. So I go into AppleWorks, try to open it, but nothing happens.
All right, this is Attaware from Lavasoft? Okay.
I still downloaded it. I
Were you on a Mac or a PC?
Mac?
Okay. Lavasoft is a company in, I think, Sweden, somewhere up in Scandinavia. Attaware is a spyware scanner for PCs. Okay. So when you downloaded Attaware, you were downloading a .exe self-expanding package, but because you're on a powered PC Macintosh running Macintosh Unix, it goes, no, this is not an executable that'll run on this system. If you were on a MacTel system where it's an Intel processor, it would say the same thing.
So what's the best spy program to get?
Well, I know this is going to sort of shock you, but there really aren't any spy-type things on the Mac to fix, to scan. There is a program, MacScan, that you can pay $40 for, but basically, all it does is scan and say there's nothing there. There are significant structural differences between how Microsoft operating systems, especially when they're using Internet Explorer and ActiveX technology, what they let a file do, what they let a website do. Okay, I know there's been a lot of press in the last month or so about how Macintoshes are vulnerable, et cetera, et cetera. The facts basically are these. There are no spyware-type programs that can load on a Mac and stay there. And if you're talking about viruses, it's 174,000 viruses, Trojans, malware over in the Microsoft Windows world versus a total of 76 in the 30-year history of Apple. And of those 76, only 3 work with Mac OS X, and they all require the user to say yes to several dialog boxes, or what are called Trojan horses or rootkits. So you just don't have that level of risk on a Mac. Okay, now that I've made you calmer, I want to also add there is no such thing as a safe download from the internet. Somewhere, at some time, someone will figure out a way to do something bad to a Mac.
That's why I don't do my
Okay.
banking on the internet.
So it's levels of security, as always. Yes, Mr. Ward?
Is the ClamX upgrade, the past month or so, a significant upgrade?
Say-
The ClamX upgrade?
I haven't looked at the, you're talking about ClamX AV?
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the new interface. You're talking about the one from Mark Allen in the United Kingdom?
Yeah.
Okay. He's just working on an interface that talks to the Unix engine and the virus definitions. That Unix engine and the virus definitions, that's open source software. That's a software project that's been going on for, I think, 12, 15 years now. So I'd have to look at it. I can't answer the question right now.
I think,
thing I heard is they made it universal.
Oh, well, that's cool.
It's a big thing. It's Intel.
Okay, well, that's cool. Send me a reminder, I'll take a look at it, and I'll send a message out to everyone telling them what I think, and then you can ignore me like they do at work. Yes, ma'am? Okay, we'll go with Jim Brenner first.
Got a daughter's going to college in the fall, and Ryza might set a good example and raise her right. She's going to have to get a PC because Tiffin University doesn't have supports for Macs, and when we asked about Macs, they acted like handing them a rattlesnake. So, anybody have a suggestion as to, what kind of a laptop, we should look for in buying a PC laptop as much as I
Okay, what is she going to want to run? Microsoft Windows XP? Probably? Okay.
University requirements, most universities have specific requirements as to what the kids have to have for a computer, as to what software they're gonna be running.
They'll also, a lot of times,
And they
have
can get
recommendations and
discounts.
maybe even, packages and something.
If you're talking about brands, okay, and it's going to be a laptop, if cost is not a primary requisite, I'd go with an IBM ThinkPad, or I'd go with an Apple MacBook Pro that runs Unix, and it can also run Windows XP using Boot Camp. And since she's going to be going next year, when does Mac OS 10.5 come out?
this year
Which is
sometime.
Leopard. Because Leopard, they're going to have that ability built into the OS where you can run either. Right now, you have to use a program from Apple called Boot Camp to allow it to run Windows XP and or Mac OS 10.
Yeah, they don't have anybody on their staff that has, is a Mac expert.
Well, see, what's nice about the MacTel, the PowerBook, is if she wants to be doing Mac stuff, she just goes to the startup thing, her control panel in Windows and says, when I reboot the machine, start it up in Mac OS 10. And if she wants to do the Windows XP stuff, she says in her Mac OS control pane, when I reboot the machine, start it up in Windows XP. And it runs natively on that Intel processor.
From what I've heard from people, commonly when they say, well, you should use the Windows, there's very few situations where you're doing something that specifically requires Windows.
Right.
A lot of times, it's a case of the IT staff just wouldn't know what to answer if you had questions.
Other thing to keep in mind is, okay, now, I work for an IT department, okay? I know people who do IT support at universities. Basically, if you're not faculty or staff, they ain't gonna help you anyway. Okay? So you're gonna be relying upon your fellow students. You do in college as a student the same thing we do here. You get together with other people and say, hey, can you help me? All right? So you want to have it where you have Windows, so she can run those programs that only run on Windows. So an IBM ThinkPad, good quality equipment, or the MacBook Pro. Supposedly the Mac, what do they call the equivalent of an iBook that's coming out?
MacBook.
They're just MacBook, Jim? Real soon, Apple's coming out with a lower cost version of their MacBook Pro that's just like MacBook. Like the difference between a PowerBook and an iBook. And I believe those will be able to also run both. Okay? Okay. Yes, sir.
Recently, my Safari, when I open Safari, it takes a half a minute or more before it comes on. And that's kind of new, and I don't know.
Okay, question. When you launch Safari, excuse me, that don't understood. See this menu item in the Safari? Where I'm in Safari, I'm in the command menu, that reset. Try doing the reset Safari and see if that changes the situation.
Okay.
There are all these cache files that when you're using an internet browser that don't always get cleared away. I think of them as like barnacles, you know? You
Yeah.
get this little sailboat or rowboat and you're doing just fine, and then you get about 2 years of barnacles on it, and then you go, wow, why is it
always
so?
going to the same home site that I have set, and all of a sudden I get the beach ball for about a half a minute, and then finally it clicks, comes on.
Does it do
I'll
it
try
on all
I'll do that.
websites?
Pardon me?
Does it do it on all websites?
Well, you know, I haven't tried changing the
No, I mean, when
the
you click
address.
on another link or something, you go somewhere else, is it still that
Right,
slow?
it's usually when I click Safari on, it goes to this
I
home
understand,
website.
but you just stay there, you never go anywhere?
Well, when I go to other websites, it goes right there.
Okay, well then, there sounds like there's something wrong with that website. Because if it's loading everything else fine, then you narrow it down to that particular website.
It's only when I usually,
Oh, when
when
you
I
start
start doing
out.
financial
Oh, okay.
stuff, I turn Safari off. It's only when I click it to come on again
Okay.
that the beach ball comes
So,
on.
first thing I would do is, once
Clean
you've
the
got it
cache.
started, do that reset. That throws away a whole bunch of temp files.
Okay.
Okay. The other thing is, see if you can have this copy, if there isn't an extra one around. But there's there's a stack of these back there. In here, about a third of the way in, there's a little thing about treating Safari anemia, and it's got a couple other things you can do to, excuse me, not treating Safari anemia, because that's how to add third-party stuff. But there's a thing in here about how to get it so it umps along a little bit better.
Yeah, once it's open, it works fine.
Okay. The other thing is, I have, in the same way that in my toolbox, I got a couple different hammers. You know, I don't just use one hammer. You might want to look at Firefox or Opera or one of the other browsers that run on the Mac. Okay? It's always nice to have another one just in case. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I think we took care of all that. Okay, that's good. All right, let's see, what did I miss? We did help desk, we did for sale wanted, we did news. Okay, so then it's break time then.
It's break time.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break. So it's 10:50 now, so at 11 o'clock, we're going to re-meet for a presentation, a very basic newbie type presentation on scanners here. And Mr. Cobb will have the typical Mac Novice workshop in the other area. There's open forum. Okay. And let me get this started. Okay, I'm going to give you my standard disclaimers that I've been giving ever since late March. Okay, April and May, my life has been seriously overcommitted in so many ways that I won't even go into it. But I'll just say, work, home, and I'm in school. Okay, so I think you'll all understand that. I was not able to devote as much time to the presentation that I'm going to give today as I normally would have. So I don't consider it my best effort, though I have been told on occasion that my fly by the seat of your pants presentations are better than the ones that I've thoroughly thought out. So I'll let you be the judge of that. Our topic is going to be Scanning 101, and we're talking about image scanners. We're not talking about virus scanners. We're not talking about radio scanners. If you do a Google on scanning, there's so many different types of devices that do scanning. It's interesting. And before I start the presentation, let me just talk a little bit about the equipment that I've got up here that I brought with today. Let me just unplug this first. One of my colleagues at work was nice enough to let me borrow some company equipment for this presentation because I'm too damn lazy to unplug my SCSI scanner at home, the one that can do broadsheet.
Yeah.
It's 52 pounds, a scanner. So she let me borrow this. This is a scanner, portable, that some of the reporters use when they're on remote location. It's made by Canon. It weighs a little bit over a pound. You get a really good result from it. It's got a locking mechanism underneath. It'll fit very nicely into a laptop case. And best of all, it's powered off of the USB port, which means you don't have another power brick to carry. Okay, so I just wanted to mention what I'm using as a scanner. Plug all that back in, unlock it, and plug it back in over here. Okay. Now I'm going to go into presentation mode. Scanning 101. If you think back to your college, your first college experience, 101 was what level of class?
Introduction to.
Right. Before they even really start getting into the good stuff. That's my intention today. My name is William Herrick. I'm a system engineer at Cox Ohio Publishing. 2 email addresses you can use and 2 phone numbers. I am almost never at my desk, but I do have voicemail. We have a very efficient spam filter at the Dayton Daily News. So efficient that sometimes people don't get through to me. So I would recommend that you use this email account, grillman@aol.com. That is my personal, non-company email account. The one that is not shared with my wife or any of my 3 children or any coworkers. So that's the one that's direct to me. And the phone number there is my home phone number. And I'll just say that we screen all the calls. So if you can get through, you're luckier than I am most days. Okay, what are we going to cover in this? As always, I'm over-optimistic how much I can cover in 30 minutes, 35 minutes. So we probably won't hit all of this. If I see I'm running short of time, I'm going to cut to demo and how to buy a scanner. Or if I see a lot of people yawning and I know that it's just not meeting your needs. We're going to do terminology. We're going to talk a little bit about how the technology actually works. Basic scanning strategies. A demo, which is why I brought the scanner, and how to buy a scanner. Or let's say, what to look for, what questions to ask before you select the scanner. Terminology, scanning. Process to convert images into digital data files for, 3 possibilities. Display on a computer monitor, like I'm doing right now. Reprinting on paper, or on transparencies, Or exposing onto photographic film. You can output to film. Or if you're doing high-end publishing stuff, output to metal. Plates that end up on a printing place. Okay, some other little things. Bit depth. The number of bits making up each pixel in a bitmapped image. Bit depth dictates the range of possible values for each pixel, and hence the total number of colors or shades of gray that the image can contain. Okay. What I want you to think about when you think about bit depth is how when you have a young man and as he ages and becomes an older man, their value system gets fine-tuned. When you're young, things are black or white. Yes or no. No shades of gray. Okay? You agree with that. When you're young, it's real clear. As you get a little more experience, you go, well, you know, it's not that, it's not this, it's sort of in here somewhere. And when you reach maturity, then the entire world in all of its various colors become available to you. Yeah, I know, that's sort of a lot of BS, but just think about it, okay? Same thing is going on here. How much information is going to be associated with each piece of that picture that you're creating, that image? Is it going to just be a 0 or 1 indicating a black dot or a white dot? Or is it going to have a degree of darkness or lightness, what they call grayscale? Or is it going to have red, green, and blue associated to it, where you can combine them together and make colors? Okay? Examples of various bit depths. This is the same image, a 1-bit. Notice you've just got black and white. Okay. Each pixel, each dot of the picture is either on or off. With a 4-bit, you can allow different degrees of darkness. And with the 8-bit, you're right on the edge of where you're doing color. Okay? Same picture, same image, but different amounts of information that are associated with each pixel. Okay, resolution, I started playing with special effects. I apologize for that, I thought I took them out. Resolution and image size. Resolution, not revolution. Resolution. Measurement of the detail in an image usually given in dots per inch, DPI, or pixels per inch. Okay? Here we're talking about not how much information is associated with those dots, but how many dots there are associated with that picture. If you took a newspaper and you took a jeweler's loupe and you looked at these pictures and you really magnified them, you would discover that they are made up of dots. Okay? Not lines, dots. This is what we're talking about here. Dots. How many dots per inch make up that picture? And then image size. Image size, let's see, is conferred upon a bitmapped image. With size comes resolution. The way I like to think about this is think about how you're going to output that image. Think of it as being a photograph. Are you going to print it on a 3x5 or an 8x10? Okay. You want to set that scan image so that it's appropriate to print out as an 8x10 or a 3x5. So in other words, think about how big physically this thing is going to be output. Is it going to be a broadsheet, 21 inches by, or is it going to just be a letter size thing, 8.5 by 11?
Or if you're just going to display it.
Say again?
Or if you're just going to display it.
If you're going to display it, well, okay. What
A
size a
monitor.
monitor if you
Right.
want? Okay. I find people get confused because with monitors, typically people will downsize the image and they think they've increased it because it looks bigger. It's a bigger image, but it's smaller landscape. Anyway, it confuses me. Physical size of images on a monitor. Regardless of specified print size, on-screen image size is determined by the pixel dimensions of the image and the monitor size and the monitor resolution settings. And if you're on a PC, your monitor drivers and your video card. Okay. And what these are basically showing is, this is a 21-inch monitor with a 1024 by 768 setting. So you see how much the image fills of the screen. Here's a 15-inch monitor, but it's got an 832 by 624 setting, but it's the same file. Okay, so it's just the capability of the monitor that I'm displaying here. But it's something to keep in mind when before you scan stuff. Okay, so that was sort of like the terminology. Let's talk about how they work. Whenever you're scanning and things aren't going well, what I always do is I blame Albert Einstein. Just blame Albert, okay? Because it's all his fault. 1905, the paper he got the Nobel Prize for was on the photovoltaic effect, quantum physics, but basically it's this whole thing about how you can generate electricity with light hitting metal. Certain, as you vary the amount and quality and quantity of the light, the current will change. Okay, now that's important because what a scanner uses is what's called a charge-coupled device array. It's basically a bunch of photoelectric cells that generate electric current depending on the quantity and the quality of the light that's hitting the CCD. Think about your digital cameras. It's the same technology. CCDs, charge-coupled devices. Okay, so a lot of stuff gets reused over in the IT world. Other things that are involved are mirrors, no smoke, lamps, lenses, and then there's other ways of holding the media that you want to image. Basic process is there's some sort of a light source that either passes through the media that's being scanned, if it's film it's going through, or it reflects off of the media that's being scanned, if it's paper, okay, that then is being read by that charge-coupled device. It generates various types of electrical signals. Those electric signals get interpreted in various ways depending on bit depth and resolution, and they end up creating a digital image. A file full of zeros and ones that represents a picture. In terms of form factor of scanners, most of you are familiar with the flatbed scanners, like the one I have here, where you lay the piece of paper on it and you close the lid and you press the button, just like a copier machine. There are other types of scanners. The first scanners that were used, the high-end ones, were drum scanners. Think, if you will, of a 1 liter Coke, container, bottle of Coke, 1 liter. Cut off the ends, take off the label so you can see through it. Then take a piece of paper and fold it, make it like that, and then slide it inside. And then rotate the drum real fast. Keep the light and the CCDs stationary and let it read it. And you vary the rotation depending on what sort of resolution you want. That's a drum scanner. Okay. Flatbed scanner, the piece of paper is stationary, lays on that piece of glass, and you have a gear that's moving the light and the CCD array down that path, and it's recording the information as it goes through. There are advantages and disadvantages with both methods. If you want true precision, you want to be using a drum scanner because the light and the CCD array is held stationary, and it's the thing that's being scanned that moves. Flatbeds, you've got gears, and you've got to, it's got to be smooth, and it's got to move it just right. You've got stepper motors involved. It's not quite as precise, but it's good enough. Yes, Dan?
What about the flatbeds that move the image to be scanned?
Sort of like the copiers,
Yeah, well, what it is, you put the, I've seen where you put the picture down
and then it goes.
and it goes across it.
It's their way of getting around the imperfection of having to move the light and the CCD array. But the problem is, you still have to have smooth movement.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better, but it's still not as good as a drum scanner. Okay, and then there's the handheld scanners. I've never been able to successfully use a handheld scanner. I just can't get that motion that you need to have to get it properly, to properly do a whole page. But you do have handheld scanners. They're very similar to your barcode scanners. Okay, I can get barcode scanners to work, no problem. Just can't do the other ones. Okay, any questions about form factors? Okay, we're doing good. All right, let's talk about some scanning techniques. I can't tell you how many times I've been called to fix a computer that isn't working right because it just won't, this scanner isn't working right, the computer isn't working right. And I go, okay, well show me what you're scanning. And there's this napkin that they've stepped on and, you know, there's holes in it. And I go, okay, and you're trying to read the text off of this, and it's handwritten. That's the problem is they don't have a best quality original print. If you start with garbage, you're going to end up with garbage. If you take the things that you want to scan and you just do some very simple things, you take a lint-free cloth, wipe the object down to get as much dust off of it as possible, you've got a better result because you're prepping the original. If you're dealing with photographs, if you can scan the negative, you're going to get a better result than if you scan the positive that
But
came
not
out
with
of
a
the
flatbed
layout.
scanner.
Flatbed scanner, there are some flatbed scanners that can do film. Okay.
Yeah, they say they can.
There are some that actually can.
Okay.
Or you use a dedicated scanner
Right.
for film.
Right.
But in any case, the important concept is start with the best possible original. If you've got a negative you can use it. If you've got a series of positives that you can use the best of the positives that you have. Okay. You'll get a better result. And prep it before you use it. So remember, garbage in means garbage out.
And the flatbed scanner window could use the same treatment.
How many times have you opened up, if you have a scanner, have you opened up your scanner to discover that a previous user wanted to do a handprint? Okay. Again, you would take not a handkerchief, but a lint-free cloth, just wipe it down gently. Okay, yes?
If you've got glass or plastic, depends on what you use to clean it with.
That's why I'm not talking about chemicals. Lint-free, that pretty much covers it all. But there's
Some
standard.
things can scratch the plastic too.
That is correct. If you're going to do it right, most of us, it's just you scan once in a blue moon, but if you're going to be doing professional scans, you go ahead and you buy the professional materials to prep, not just the materials, but also the scanner plate before you go. And you should be doing it in a dust-free room, and you should have temperature controls, et cetera, and pretty soon the boss says, hey, come on, we got to get this done. Yes, Joe?
The underneath side of the glass too. I had trouble with my scanner getting smoky underneath the glass, and I had to disassemble it and clean the bottom side of the glass.
The newer scanners are sealed better, and they have adaptive technology that's software-based that will compensate for that haze that you get after a while. That's why they do that extra calibration at the beginning. Okay, but again, you know, you gotta maintain these things. Okay, there's a couple things you gotta know before you can scan. Because when you do scanning, it's not just a physical process, it's also a software process. You have scanning software drivers that do their thing, and they usually are asking you questions. You get a better result if you know the answers before you do that. And that would be, what image type are you scanning? What's the intended use? What size the output image should be? And what file format for the output image? Okay. Let's see. What image type are you scanning? Let me roll through those. This is my simple-minded way of handling that question. Is the original paper, is it a photograph or a glossy print, or is it film, negative or positive? Okay. And is it black and white, is it grayscale, or is it color? I'm talking about the original now that you're scanning. And then you basically say, okay, it's paper and it's color. Okay, so boom, it goes in that box. If it's black and white and it's film, okay, it goes in that box. If it's grayscale, because that's going to determine what level of bit depth you want to set your scan for. Okay, and it has to do with file size. The more information per dot and the more dots per picture, the larger that electronic file is going to be. With a high-end, high-resolution, lots of information scan of a broadsheet newspaper page, you can get easily up in the 200, 300 megabyte range. Easily. Okay, so you need to consider this stuff. Sometimes you have to go with what's good enough as opposed to what can I do on this system. Okay, next thing, what is the intended use? In other words, once you've scanned this thing, are you going to be emailing it to somebody? Do you really want to email a 230 megabyte file to somebody? Okay, if it's just a picture of your dog, and it's, do they need that much resolution? So you need to think about what's the use. Is it going to be something they email to somebody? Is it going to be a picture you use in a PowerPoint presentation? Is it going to be something that's just output on your color printer at home? Or is it going to be the cover of Life magazine, where you're going to have 4-color reproduction? I mean, then you want to have lots of detail, because this is, stuff that you're doing for history. Okay? So you need to think about those things. To be printed, exposed, or displayed. In other words, printing, are you outputting to film? Is it just going to be on a monitor? Is it a continuous tone or half-tone process? And what's the resolution of the device that you're going to be outputting it on? Remember, this is part of a production flow. If I scan something and it's ultra high resolution, and then I'm going to output it on a dot matrix printer, which can only do black and white, I had to scan it to match up the output device. Okay, printing black and white images. You want to limit the scan resolution to the maximum resolution of the printing device. Don't scan at 1400 dpi if the printer can only output at 300 or 600 dpi. Scan it a little bit over, but not much. Experiment with lower settings. Best compromise between file size and quality. High resolution image setters use 800 ppi, points per inch. Usually they're in the 1,000 plus. 400 to 600 ppi, usually adequate at printing to newsprint or other porous paper. 300 to 600 on your laser, typical laser, will get you there. If you're doing grayscale images.
Pardon me, I'm new. Is this information going to be available on the website, or?
Yeah.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
So I don't have to write all this down.
In fact, if you want, I can email you the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
I would hope it might find its way into a CD, you know, the monthly CD.
Well, that's what we've been doing with the presentations.
Yeah, right.
We're trying to figure out what's the best way to give you a mix of distribution methods. I mean, we've got some folks that have been at almost every meeting since, you know, we started. We've got one member, one very loyal member who has never attended a monthly meeting, and he's one of the founding members. So we try and make it so that it's available on demand, if you will. Okay, moving right along. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt again. I have a particular question about black and white scanning. Would you like me to hold that to the end and talk to you
No,
separately?
ask now.
I'm doing sort of a history of the family, and I'm scanning black and white photos.
Okay.
And I can scan them into the library, but I can't get them into iPhoto. They just won't transfer into iPhoto. When I try and do that, I get an error message on them.
Do you remember what the error message is?
I don't. I can email that to you though.
Okay.
So should I do that?
What I'm thinking is probably going on, let me go back a little bit here. Okay. See where we get to the point, what file format for output image?
Yeah.
Okay, I jump back, now I'm going to jump forward. I'll get there. Okay. Know which file formats can be used by the application you'll use to output the final image. In this case, it's, you're saying iPhoto? Or photo?
iPhoto, and I'm doing them in JPEG.
Okay. That's interesting. That it won't import a JPEG?
I'll email you the information, and maybe you can tell
Okay.
me.
What I need to know is the standard stuff, you know, what version of the operating system, what version of iPhoto, then what model is scanner,
Scanner, yeah.
and what software is bundled with that scanner. Okay? I'm going to jump back here. So we were talking about printing black and white images. That whole idea is limiting scan resolution, keeping in mind what the output device is and what the image is like. Grayscale, same thing. Limit the scan to no more than twice the printer's default screen frequency.
What is screen frequency? That sounds like newspaper stuff.
It's newspaper stuff. And it's high-end printing stuff. Well, I shouldn't say high-end printing. It's not outputting on what we call a printer, but what we call a duplicator. Okay? The sort of stuff that most print shops do. Because when they create their printing plates, okay, they're outputting typically to film, and then from the film they burn onto a plate, so they're doing halftone screens. So if you're going to have it printed professionally by one of these print shops, you need to be talking to them about what their screen frequency is. And then display on monitor. This one I had filled with all sorts of if, ands, or buts, and then I looked at it and I said, wait a minute, 75 dpi, 75 dots per inch. Now that would be not just if you're displaying on a monitor, but if you're going to email it to somebody, chances are they're going to read it on their monitor first.
You said dots per inch, and yet you've got pixels per inch, I think.
Yeah.
Dots per inch, you know, gets mixed up with what printers can do, and that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah, and I've got a typo here. It should be DPI there, not PPI. There's, while it is technically correct, and if you're actually doing the standard, you're using the correct terminology, it should be pixels per inch when you're discussing monitors. The marketing folks don't market monitors with pixel per inch. They use dots per inch, and dots per inch actually is different from pixels per inch. They're almost equivalent, but not really. So anyway, I should have had DPI there. And then, if you're exposing or printing to film, or you're using a dye sublimation printer, because you have a higher resolution you can do on those, and the printing technique is a little different, Same thing with wax thermal printers. You want to match the scan resolution to the output device. These are higher end things, they can handle higher resolution stuff, but you're going to end up with much bigger file sizes. But they can handle it.
Bill,
Yeah.
if somebody is scanning, let's say family documents, family photographs,
Okay.
much of your recommendation is based upon today's equipment. But the equipment, I assume, is improved, continuing to improve like it has over the last 10 to 15 to 20 years. What, and one's going to burn it to a CD, what is a relatively reasonable high number of dots per inch or pixels to scan that, so that when the equipment improves, you can load in the CD,
Okay.
scan every day?
If it's a silver plate photograph, they have unbelievably high resolution. There you basically crank it up as high as your equipment can handle. Okay, keeping in mind that you may end up having to segment the image into pieces. Because you want to keep as much of that. What we're talking about, how do you historically archive documents? And that's what got us started on the whole idea of doing scanning this month. And then I looked at this whole topic and I went, there's so many complicating factors with doing that sort of stuff that I just didn't want to tackle it yet because I knew I didn't have time to do it. But rule of thumb, as high as you can. You save it in a TIFF format, TIFF format. It's going to be very large. And then you burn them to CD. Okay? And then you check them every 2 to 5 years to make sure that the CD has not deteriorated physically. So we're talking like archive stuff. Yeah,
Would
Doc.
it be better on those to convert them over to film? Not something I really want to do, but
Right now, I'd say, yeah, if you can output the film, that's good. But the problem is, film is going to go away. Film is disappearing even as we speak. It's a mature industry. It's almost a dead industry. It's sort of like what's going to happen to newspapers in about 10 years.
is it more archival, stable than CD?
Film is less stable than good quality CDs. Good quality CDs are archive quality, you know, National Archives, 100-year, 120-year plus. Low-end 5-cent CDs from, you know, I know, you picked them up at the flea market, they may not be quality. Typically, the ones that look like they're gold dye sub, used on the CD, that tends to be the better quality, archival quality. Yeah, no.
If you're gonna do family photos or something, you want to put it into iPhoto and then onto a DVD, you try to use highest resolution there and JPEG.
No, because typically that's meant for actual use by real people, and you want to get, typically you're not just archiving them, you're creating something for people to enjoy, whether it's a funeral or it's a wedding or whatever, but it's meant for them to be able to refer to. And if you go with too high of a file size, you're not going to be able to get all the stuff on it. Plus the other thing that happens is, if you've got to take a collection and you have to spread it over multiple CDs or multiple DVDs, you're going to lose one. And then you're going to go, you know, that was 1960s, oh my Lord, what did we do with those wedding pictures? Or if you got it all on one and you got more than one copy of it, so you got 2 copies, it's easier. Yes, George?
Not necessary now, but I'd appreciate later on a discussion of CD life and archiving, you know, if I want to, like pictures, like family pictures, and I want them to last a long time, what do I need to do and stuff like that.
Okay.
But no, I mean, I don't want to interrupt your thing
Yeah,
now.
I hear you, I hear it. Just rule of thumb, if you're over 50, anything you burn on CD is gonna be there after you're dead.
Yeah, well, that fits me.
Okay, and it fits me too, George. Okay, I mean, as I get older, everything there is no more permanent to me. Everything's temporary. Yeah, you know, it's a temporary solution, it's good for the next 10 years, you know? There is no eternity, there is no permanent.
But can I buy better CDs than I don't wanna be?
Yeah, you can
I might
buy-
go for the 10-cent one, you know.
The 10-cent ones are gonna last you, you know, 10 to 20 years. The ones that are in the 20, 25-cent range are gonna last 50 to 60 years. It's like buying roofs, you know, they say, yeah, it's 20-year rating, whatever. You can actually go onto the website of CD manufacturers and see what the specification is. Or if you want to be really anal compulsive, you go to the National Archives, where they have their technology, where they talk about the technology, and you see what they're using to archive stuff. Okay, can I move on? Okay. Another item to consider that you need to be thinking about before you press that scan button. What is the output image size? Okay. If you're going to be printing it on your own printer, it's a photograph you're going to scan it in. You're going to blow it up to 8 by 10, and the original is a 3 by 5. You want to do a higher resolution so that when you output it as an 8 by 10, you get that nice look. What they call it's a solid image. It's not doing any interpolation. Yes?
Point out that the reason you're doing that is that if you leave it at that smaller resolution, what it is, you've got dots with air or space in between on the big
Yeah.
ones, right?
Yeah. It's like that painting of Abraham Lincoln in the Guggenheim. How many of you have ever been to the Guggenheim in New York? Okay. If you're all the way across the hall and you look at the painting, you go, yeah, that's Abe Lincoln. When you get up close, like within 50 feet, it starts to blur into a series of dots. When you get up close, it's just a series of random dots. Okay. Same thing with pictures. If you get up too close to a high-resolution picture, okay, it's just a series of dots. There's no, you don't see what it is. So something else to think about is if I'm printing it out, what size am I printing it out? Because you want to scan it for that. And then file format. If you're going to be scanning it and then you're going to be using another program to modify it or to edit it, what file formats does that program accept? Okay. Otherwise, you're going to get frustrated. You know, you spend the time and effort, you scan 25 photos, then you go to bring them into iPhoto and you go, what's this? You know, error message. I just wasted all that time. Yes?
I'm not a scanner expert by any means, but I've got one of those combo printer scanners, faxers, whatever. And I did some scanning into my computer and I noticed when I did it that it took up a humongous amount of memory. Because I checked, what memory size the file was. Can you speak to some of the memory requirements of .gif, .jpeg, .tiff there? What's some of the differences? Maybe I should have picked another format out there.
When they talk about a TIFF format, tag encoded file format is what TIFF stands for. There's actually 28 different flavors of TIFFs. Okay. And there's sniffs and there's riffs and there's... Anyway, but typically a TIFF is going to be the largest.
Yeah.
Same image, same resolution, same output size, TIFF is going to be the largest.
Okay.
Okay. Typically, there's very little compression going on in the TIFF. For archive purposes, that's what you want. Okay. GIF and JPEG, they have compression technologies being used. Okay. Where it's the same amount of information, but they'll sort of squish it down. Example, you've got a James Michener novel, okay, 400 pages. You look and you say, oh, he uses the word the all the time. Space, the, space. Oh, instead of using the, we'll use this little code to represent it. and we'll use a number 1 with a special mark in front of it. So instead of it being space, T-H-E space, 5 characters, we can do it in 2. Okay, so we just got a 50% reduction in size. Well, you go through the document and you change that. That's sort of what compression does. They're looking for patterns of 0s and 1s, and then they store those patterns using another table that says this is this and this is that. But because it's modifying it, you are not going to, whenever you modify something, whenever you've manipulated it, it's not the original. I'll just put it that way. The other thing that goes in is what's called lossless compression. GIF and JPEGs are not lossless. Okay, in other words, you're going to lose detail even when you have the highest quality settings set. Okay, it's going to blur it a little bit.
That
The
happens.
question is it perceivable by a human being?
Doesn't that happen every time you make a change and then you resave it? You lose some?
If you're working with JPEGs,
Right.
yes.
That's what I'm
So
saying, a lossy.
typically, if you're a purist, you're going to do your editing in a native
or
Photoshop format or a TIFF format. Same thing with digital photos. You're going to be using the RAW format. After you've edited, then you save it out to whatever purpose you want, using one of the either JPEGs or GIFs. So, extremely large, smaller, with really good quality, and this one is going to be depending on a whole bunch of different factors, Photoshop, because it's a proprietary format, so they're using proprietary protocols.
Isn't GIF limited to 256 colors?
GIF, no, because there's Super GIF, which will do 128-bit. But it's, GIF is not an open standard. It's has a patent and copyright protection applied to it, and you have to license it to use it. Where JPEG was Jet Propulsion Lab, so it's developed by the government, and we get to use it without paying for, well, we paid for it once with our tax dollars. Okay, I'm going to go forward unless I got another question. Yes?
Just real quick, what does GIF and JPEG stand for? What does the letters
Graphics information.
GIF stands for Graphic Interchange Format. Sorry about that. Graphic Interchange Format, JPEG.
Joint Photographic.
Yeah.
Photographic Experts Group.
I always thought it meant Jet Propulsion Lab, but I was wrong. It wasn't JPL. They use it, but they didn't develop it. Okay. Graphic interchange format, you got to go way back in time before people were using the internet, and we were using bulletin board systems, and we were using online systems like CompuServe and AOL, and people had a lot of different computers. There was Apple and Acorn, and there was, you know, all these different computers out there. Atari, Amiga, very, very rich environment. And you've got the same picture, and I've got it on my Apple too. And my buddy's got an Amiga or an Acorn, and I want him to have that picture. Well, everybody's image formats were proprietary only for their system. So CompuServe said, wait a minute. We've got the same picture stored on our online system in, 30, 40 different formats. How about we create a graphic interchange format? And so they licensed that from Unisys. And we'll just have it up there once, and we'll make it so it works on everybody's computer. So that's where GIF came from. Okay, now I'm going to go forward again. Oh, great, I got to the demo. Before I do the demo, I'm going to hit the next one, which is buying a scanner, because I just want to make sure I go through these. And anybody got a time check for me? What time it is?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay, let me roll quick here. Buying a scanner. Things to think about. Purpose. Are you going to use it just once in a while? Or are you a photographer and people bring stuff in all the time? You're going to be using it every day? I mean, what's it going to be used for? Purpose. how much available desk space. Okay, this scanner takes up about the same space on a desktop as a 11 by 14, a legal pad. The scanner I have at home would take up from, let's see, that's about 4 foot by about 3 foot, and it stands about yay high. Actually, it's a little bit bigger than that because I can do broadsheet on it. So it's, the big one is actually 4 foot by about 5 foot, 3 by 5. Okay, obviously, you know, I'm not going to put it in my home office. I'm going to have it down in the basement sitting on a table by itself. So it's, how much space have you got? Another thing to consider, they have these combo units where it's a printer, a copier, a scanner, a fax machine. Okay, if you don't do a lot of faxing, you don't do a lot of copying, you don't do a lot of printing, you just do it once in a while, that's the way to go. Keeping in mind that if one of the functions breaks, the other ones probably break too. Okay. Another item, I usually put that up first, cost budget. How much money have you got to spend? You always want to budget it. The highest end scanner that I've ever touched cost $32,000.
What year?
And that did not include the software. Okay. The cheapest scanner I ever touched cost $15. It was one of those handheld ones that plugs in, and I couldn't get it to work. But it was cheap. So what's your budget? Another item, bundled software. What comes with it? Okay. With a scanner, you will always get some software that will control the scan process. But if you're smart, you'll look to see, do I get an editing program with it too? On the Macintosh, that would be a program like Photoshop Elements, Photoshop LE. In other words, I've scanned it, now I want to modify it some way. Take out the red eye from the photograph, brighten the colored tones, take it down, whatever. Is there bundled software with it? Because that helps you decide whether it's worth buying. Another thing that's very important, scanner-computer interface. How does the scanner connect physically with the computer? All right, I can't tell you how many times I get the call, somebody's got a new Mac, and somebody just gave them a scanner, and they want to scan, and I say, okay, tell me what model and make it is. And they tell me, and I go, oh, okay, that is a SCSI scanner, and you have a brand new Macintosh that has FireWire output, it has USB input and output, it does not have SCSI anymore. And then they say, well, you know, how much would a SCSI transfer unit cost? And I go, more than the scanner. So you want to make sure, you want to see what your computer is able to handle. Typically, nowadays, just like with printers, it's USB. Universal serial bus. Next, optical resolution and scanning area. Okay, optical resolution is how finely it can see, and scanning area is how big of a piece of paper can it scan. Can it scan an 8.5 by 11? Can it scan a legal size? Can it scan what's called tabloid, 11 by 17? Can it scan broadsheet, which is 2 tabloids? Can it do a double truck, which is 2 broadsheets? Yes, sir.
Going back on a computer interface, you might also tell them that there's a difference between USB 1.1 and USB 2. You know, some of their computers may have the capability to scan faster with USB 2.
That is correct. If I have my information correct, the iMacs, the G5 iMacs and the Intel dual-core iMacs have USB 2 ports on them. You're getting about 200 megabit per second on those. USB 1, you'd be lucky to get 50 megabit, 60 megabit. So scanning, obviously, if you're scanning at high resolutions, you want to have an interface that can handle that amount of data, which is going to be either FireWire or USB 2. Okay, moving right along. Output quality. Something may be able to scan in at a high resolution, but it can't output at a high resolution. I know, I've never understood that either. But there are some really cheap scanners. They say they can scan at such and such a resolution, but when it saves the file, it automatically drops down to a lower resolution. And then longevity and warranty. What's the longevity of that printer? If it's something that's going to be used every day, you know, there's a mechanical process going on as it moves things, it's got to be well built. If it's something you use once in a blue moon, you know, go for the low-end cheap thing. You're only going to scan maybe 25 or 30 things in the lifetime of the device anyway. It can handle that quite easily. And last but not least is warranty. Is there some sort of warranty with the device?
You want to talk about optical resolutions versus interpolated?
Oh, no. Okay.
This is 101.
This is 101.
Yeah, well, my only point is they may see it's 9600, you know, resolutions, but it's really it's not 9600. It may be like 1200.
Okay.
You know,
It goes this
they go to buy it.
All vendors, all marketing people lie. They tell you it's better than it's going to be. So you look to see on the side of the box, not the front where they go, you know, 9600 DPI, blah, 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 blah. You look on the side in the small print and see what they say, you know, underneath, you know, your mileage may vary, offer not valid in these states. They'll have a real technical specification. Okay. Do I have time to do a scan? No?
Sure you do, sure.
Okay. Let's take one thing then. All right. The software I'm using,
And by the way, scanning money is illegal, right?
no.
Oh, no.
Reproducing money and attempting it to pass it off as the real thing is illegal. Scanning money is not illegal. Money, stamps, any of these government type documents are used on a fairly regular basis in advertising materials. If you go out to the Bureau of Engraving, if you're in the U.S., you go out to the Bureau of Engraving, they have a usage policy on what you can do, how much of the bill you can show, and what you have to do for that. Same thing with stamps.
Isn't there some technology now for new bills and new scanners that actually will not scan them?
Yes, that's true, but it's really sort of bogus because you can get around it real easy. It's sort of like the copy protection that... Okay, the program that I'm using to scan does not come with this particular Canon scanner. It's a third-party scanner module from, it's called ViewScan. It's from Hamrick Software. The reason I use his stuff is because it works with about every scanner I've ever touched. And I'm lazy. I don't want to have to keep learning a new interface for scanners. So I just use his stuff on all the scanners.
Would you say it one more time so I write it down?
ViewScan.
ViewScan.
I'm about to launch it here. And there it is, ViewScan, V-U-E-S-C-A-N. And I'm just going to say close on that. And user guide. Hamrick Software. H-A-M-R-I-C-K.
When OS 10 first came out, a lot of the scanners didn't have drivers. This guy's software would run them.
Yeah. I've been able to use this stuff with Heidelberg scanners. I've been able to use this stuff with scanners from the Eastern Bloc. It's just amazing. Okay, in any case. And his website is, if I remember, Hamrick.com. But if you do a Google for ViewScan, V-U-E-S-C-A-N, and it costs about, if I remember correctly, somewhere in the $50, $60 range. Okay, so I'm going to scan to a file. My choices are I can copy this, I can profile the scanner, I can scan to a file. Then what I like about his software is he walks you through it. And I'm telling it it's a color photo. And then I'm going to tell it to auto-size the paper I'm going to, quality, it's going to be print quality as opposed to email, web, or archive. So in other words, his stuff walks you through all those questions and makes you answer them. And I just put it on it, and I was going to do a preview. Now the whole idea behind preview this software will auto crop it. It'll actually detect where the photo actually is on that bed. Okay. We've got a marquee going on around this. Looks like what they call dancing ants. So that means it selected that area. It auto-detected it. Okay, in the old days, you had a manual go in and crop it and say, this is the area I want to scan. The modern scanner drivers will detect it automatically. The tools down here are for enlarging the view so you can check that you've got what you want, and for rotating things around so you can rotate them before you scan them. So here it is, it's rotating it. So now I got to go down here. This is a picture of my wife, so I'm rotating my wife here.
She's an astronaut?
She wanted to be a space cadet at one point in her life.
You don't have to dress up.
I've got a couple others. Anyway, let me just...
We're looking along the same line here.
I'm so damn lucky she flunked out. Okay, anyway, I just clicked the OK button, so now it's actually scanning. So first it just gave me a picture on my computer screen of what it's doing. Now it's creating that data file and writing it to my hard drive. Okay, it's created the data file, it's done it in RAM. Now it's going to ask me what to call it, where to save it, and what format to save it in. And in this particular instance, the only choice it's going to give me is that, because I've got a full hard drive. Okay. And we do next. Okay, let's do a... okay. Let's grab something else here. Let's do a preview.
You can download this software and try it.
Yeah.
See if it works with your hardware.
What happens
before you
with
buy it.
UScan is if you don't have a registration code, the file that you've saved will have $signs overlaid it.
But you can check to see your hardware works with it.
Correct.
How it works.
And he does keep older versions for other operating systems prior to Mac OS X.
He updates it a lot
Older
too.
version to a newer one, your code doesn't transfer, does it?
It depends on when you bought it. He requires you to get a new update about once every 5 years. Okay, now this is not glossy, this is a printed publication. So this is an original flyer for a Macintosh. And we're just going to click the next buttons. If I click that advanced button, all of these things would open up and say, okay, what do you want? This, what sort of screen, blah, 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 blah. It gets really complicated. That's why I sort of like it, that they've made it almost brainless.
If you want to crop different than your auto crop, can you do that?
I'd have to go into advanced, and then I have total control over what I'm cropping.
But you could, if you put it into iPhoto, you could do it in iPhoto.
You could, again, you know, you're not restricted by this program. You can output different file formats and then modify it in iPhoto, Photoshop, whatever it is that you've got, Photoshop Elements.
Bill,
Yeah.
The machines made by Xerox, we put in a whole stack page feeder,
Mm-hmm.
and it just zips them through. What is it doing differently? It's so much faster than this stuff.
It's got the scanner itself has a lot of RAM in it, okay? They're using software that's optimized for that particular set of equipment. Your CCDs are fixed, and they've got the focal length because of the depth that they can do the whole page, almost like, you know, taking a photograph. They don't have to do the partial thing. Though it depends on which.
It's a rather big machine.
Yeah. And I'm gonna just say save. Okay, in any case, we've run out of time, but what I basically want you to take away from today is scanner technology and camera technology, it's the same stuff. They've just changed how you hold the scanner. And that the same things that apply to cameras apply to scanners. How high of a resolution you're going to take the picture, what's your intended output for the camera or for the scanner, okay? And, you know, you've got those little memory chips in the cameras. It's like, okay, I can only get 25 pictures on this if I do it at the low, I can do 25 at the low resolution, I can only do 3 at the high resolution. You can tell I don't work with the cameras, the new large chips. But it's all the same stuff. Okay? So the thing to keep in mind is how high of a resolution, how much information, and that's dependent upon whether it's a black and white photo, grayscale, or a color. And last but not least, how am I going to use this? Is it going to be for a web page? Is it going to be emailed to somebody? Or is it going to be an archive that I want to keep? That determines how you set this up.
You didn't do any adjustment to get a different pixel size or different bit depth? Do you have that ability in this program? Is that advanced again? It's in advance, I think.
On my scanner program at home, it has sort of like home and advanced, but within home, if you say, hey, I want to do this, then it'll automatically choose a dot through. If I say, hey, I want to do something else, then it plays with dot through.
What I would recommend is play with the software you have. Let it do it automatically a couple times and see what the result is. Don't just look at what's on the screen. Print a couple out and then compare what it looks like on the screen and what it looked like on paper. Then start playing with the settings. Okay?
Download this place.
Thank you. Yeah.